am 3 days out, 4 days out from running a half marathon. And I've been going to the gym this week, but I decided today I needed a day off. Mama is still recovering, but the race was amazing. And we're going to talk about it a little bit today because we're going to talk about 3 tips for taking ownership of your life and how it will set you free. I love this topic. This is part of our series on becoming more your true self. And I think that ownership and sort of taking responsibility for yourself sometimes can get a bad rap, but I'm telling you, it has literally changed every part of my life since I decided to take ownership of everything, even things that we think sometimes we can't take ownership of, like even your experience of your past. For me, my experience of childhood feels like something that's just true that I can't take responsibility for. But what I have learned is that you always can take responsibility for how you interpret things, for how you respond. And since I have learned how to do that, it has made my life infinitely better and more enjoyable. And I want to sort of tie that in to the race. So I want to talk a little bit about running this race. So I have run several half marathons before, and this was the first one this was the second one I've actually run with my son Taylor. For those of you who don't know or who might be new to me, he's an amazing guy, and he's actually a physician doing a spine fellowship at Vanderbilt in Nashville. And when he was in high school, he ran cross country, and we ran the Nashville half marathon together. Now, he still is really fast. He definitely was still way faster than me. Oh, hi, Rachel Goff. So good to see you. And when we ran the race the first time together, he and his friends, he had his cross-country friends, and they, of course, ran with no shirts on. And he had mom painted on his chest. And he ran the half marathon, and he finished the whole thing. And then he ran like 6 miles back to find his mama. And then he finished the race with me. So my memories of running the Nashville half marathon were so pleasant because I'm like, oh, my boy came back and got his mama, and the boys basically ran back with us. It was really cool. So this time he lives in Nashville with his little family. He's got baby Eli and his wife, Mary Kate, and their friends who actually ran the half marathon with us the last time live in Nashville. And Andrew is really, really fast. And so we all ran the race again. It was so cute just being there with them, you guys. I can't even tell you. I was so sentimental. It was so sweet. And then my daughter, Emmy, decided to run the race with us. So she and I have been training together, and I'm going to put training in air quotes because, I mean, it might not have been what some people would do for training, but we did some long runs, and I've been doing CrossFit, so I'm in pretty good shape. So anyways, we got there. And there were 9 million people there. Now, the last time I ran the Nashville half marathon, when I lined up for the race, I heard Dave Ramsey's voice, and I had just taken the class, Financial Peace. So I hear his voice, and I'm like looking around like, oh my gosh, Dave Ramsey's here. So I ran almost the whole half marathon, like right near Dave Ramsey. We would like pass each other back and forth. So when we got here this time, I'm like, oh, will I be lucky enough to see Dave Ramsey? Now it was crowded then, but once you got into the race, it would thin out. This I felt like never really thinned out. It felt crowded the whole time. And it's so hilly. It's way hillier than I remember it being, or I think the course is different, but it's so hilly. So by the time I got like literally I got to mile 5, and this was like the rock and roll marathon, country music marathon. So there were bands everywhere, music playing everywhere. And there was this whole neighborhood that had this stand up that were like, this is the mile 5 party. I'm like, I wish I felt like partying, you people, but I was feeling it. And I got about halfway through, and I'm like, I don't know about this because I'm already spent. So I was really struggling. I was really struggling more than I thought. Now, I am a pretty mentally tough person, so I kept saying to myself, I'm just going to kick into a different gear here pretty soon. I'm just going to kick in. I was telling my CrossFit coach, I'm like, I didn't have anything to kick. There was nothing to kick in. And so I just kept running. And I kept noticing, if you've ever run any kind of race before, ever done, sports, I kept noticing people ahead of me and going, how is this guy ahead of me? He looks like he's 75 and could barely walk if he slowed down, and I can't catch him. And then I would see other people and go, how is this 12-year-old ahead of me? And then I kept reminding myself, run your own race, Miss Edie, run your own race. And I literally had to do so much mindset work on myself. I had to keep coaching myself. Like, look, you are so lucky to be here. You're so blessed that you can run. You guys, I tore my ACL completely 3 or 4 years ago, and they told me I would never run again. And I was able to heal that without surgery. I can jump and run. I just kept saying, I can run. I can do this. And I would slow my pace down and just keep going. I kept just saying, run your own race, run your own race, run your own race. And I would look at other people and go, it's so amazing that he can be here doing this, even though he's 70 and also ahead of me. And I just really did have to keep coaching myself. Like, just just be present. Just be present with yourself. Just be thankful for this. So I just kept coaching myself the whole time until I got to mile 11. I did pretty good coaching myself until I got to mile 11. And I'm like, I'm so over this. And I got to mile 11 and there was a medical tent on the right. I just was saying to myself, do I need medical attention? I think I do. I'm not sure. I saw someone stretched out on like a lounge chair getting an IV, and I'm like, I really could use an IV. I just debated the whole time. Should I stop? I mean, I know I'm kind of okay, but I'm kind of not okay. And then I knew that my kids were finished already. So they're already at the end. I've got 2 miles left. And I'm like, okay, maybe I won't stop at the medical tent, but if I just walk the rest of the way, that'll be fine. I can tell my kids, like, look, I'll get an Uber. Y'all go ahead. I'll be fine. And I just somehow kept going. I just kept eking it out. I just kept going a few more steps. I just slowed my pace down and took smaller steps and just kept going. I finally made it. I'm making it sound so dramatic, but y'all, I don't remember races feeling like such an internal struggle for me before. And I guess like I'm 10, 12 years older than I was the last time I ran one. And then for all of you ladies out there, I started my period on Sunday. So I'm like, no wonder I was struggling. So I have had a fun time, like just thinking about my own mental race, like literally my own mental gymnastics while I was doing the race. And I'm still kind of recovering. I went to the gym on Monday. I forgot to look at the workout and I went to the gym and looked. It was running. I'm like, oh my gosh. I did the workout, but I just, very slowly did the workout on Monday. So I'm feeling better. I'm so glad I did it. We had so much fun. We stayed at the Virgin Hotel in Nashville, and they had a rooftop pool, and you could like rent out a little cabana. So as a treat for all of us, Taylor's friends and my son and Emmy, we rented out a cabana at the Virgin Hotel at the rooftop pool. It was so cool. Like it was really, really cool and so fun. And little baby Eli, you guys, oh my gosh, he's so amazing. He was dancing like crazy. They had like a killer playlist going. He was dancing like crazy, just all out. So much fun. So I was up like sort of trying to dance with him. I could literally barely stand up. And so we had an amazing time. I say all that to say a few things. And then I promise you, we'll get into taking ownership of your life. But I say all that to say a few things. Again, I kept doing all this mental gymnastics with myself. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, I am running this race, like this physical race, but what race am I like what race matters to me in life? Like what race am I really running? Can I get really great at what really matters to me? Can I run the race of creating joy and gratitude? Can I run the race of practicing true presence? Can I run the race of showing up big for my life? Whether it's a race, like an actual race, or whether it's making dinner for my family, or we were outside last night chasing chickens around my house. Like, can I just get good at enjoying life, at showing up big, at loving with my whole heart? Can I run toward beauty, goodness, and hope? Like, these were the things that were going through my head at the end of the race. And I just want to say that in order to do that, I feel like and I was thinking about the verse. Is it in I think it's Colossians. Is it Galatians or Colossians? I can't remember. But the verse that says, outdo one another by showing honor. And I was thinking about that too. And I'm like, man, run the race of showing honor to other people. And as I was just thinking about the whole thing, like running the race and the real actual race that all of us are running in life, I just kept thinking about I'm so grateful that I have been able to heal enough to take responsibility for my life, because for so long in my own life, that kind of thing wasn't really available to me because I was a victim to so many things, a victim to my past, a victim to what I thought was, this is just who I am. Like, how many of us have said, and you can take anything, this is just who I am. And I used to think like I really struggled a lot with emotional health and mental health. And I just thought maybe this is just who I am. And over the years of just asking myself, can I take more responsibility for how I'm experiencing this? Granted, there are actual circumstances that have happened that are true, but how can I still take more responsibility for how I experience my own life? How can I take more ownership of my life? And how does that set me free in so many ways? This is something that we talk about so much in life mentoring school, but I want to give you 3 tips for taking ownership of your whole life, of things that you feel like, no, this just happened to me, but I still want you to ask yourself, what would it look like to take more ownership of it? What would it look like, even though, like in a marriage, there's 2 people, right? And maybe you're struggling in your marriage, but what would it look like for you to take more ownership of how you experience your marriage? And as you do that, how does that change how you experience your marriage? What would it look like? I'm raising a little adorable, very rambunctious 10-year-old. And did you guys see on what I posted on Instagram the other day? Somebody posted this. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. It was like a little meme that said, I would like to meet the Tom. Let me see if I can find it. You guys probably already saw it. Oh, it's already gone from my Instagram. It was something like, I would like to meet the Tom that a whole genre of foolery was named after. I'm like, oh, I have met the Tom that a whole genre of foolery was named after. So raising him, you could say, well, he's a hard kid. But what would it look like for me to take ownership of my experience parenting him? So you insert in there whatever your thing is that you might be struggling with. What would it look like? Maybe there are things in this that I can't control. Maybe you're growing a business and you're like, oh, the market's just whatever. Maybe, but what would it look like for you to take control and ownership and responsibility for what you can? And I'm going to give you a few tips for doing that. The first is this: forgive the people that you feel like are holding you hostage. And this is mostly you. You guys, we self-sabotage so much. We self-sabotage by blaming people, by blaming our parents. How many of us, this is just so common. This is what I did for so long. I'm like, y'all, no, there were actual things in my life that are the reason I am the way I am. Okay. But can I forgive myself for whatever I have done to perpetuate that? Can I forgive them for whatever they've done? Can I have compassion for both of us? Can I have compassion for me that I developed some really unhealthy patterns of being because of my childhood? Can I have compassion for me? Can I have compassion for how I became, a people pleaser and how I became an overachiever to try to get people's love, to try to prove my worth? Can I have compassion for me? Can I forgive them? And what would it look like for me to do that and then say, oh, I really want to just see what will happen when I take ownership of how I experience even my past, even things that I feel like I don't have control over, right? So the thing of it is, you are actually the only person who can do this. No matter what happened to you in your life, you're actually the only person who can fix it. Nobody's coming for us. We're the only ones who can take responsibility with the help of the Lord, obviously. And can we look at the adaptations that we've had to make and have compassion for ourselves? Oh, I see why I developed that way of coping. Oh, I see why I've done that type of self-sabotage. I have compassion for me and I can see why I did that. And also, now here's what I want to do. So can we forgive ourselves? Can we forgive other people? And can we start from here creating what we want to create? Can we start from here taking ownership? Number 2, create the life you actually want by the way you think and feel. So because of number 1, because of the circumstances of life that maybe we want to blame other people for, we have this habit of being, this habit of how we think, and this habit of how we experience our own emotional life. And we think that's just who we are. But what if it's not? What if it's changeable? It is 100% changeable. So I can almost remember the day when I stopped carrying around 1,000-pound backpack of all of who I thought I was, sort of tortured with this dark side, sort of with a bent toward anxiety and depression. I can remember when I literally, with the help of some counselors and coaches, just dismantled it. It's actually not who I actually am. It's not my true self. And we talked about this last time. If you haven't listened to the previous podcast, go back and listen. But we talked about the qualities of the true self: love, joy, peace, forgiveness, all of the things we actually want. That's who God made us to be. And there's so many things that get in the way of us being there, and we can just allow those to fall away and create the life we actually want by how we decide to see our lives, to think about our lives. And from those powerful thoughts, it creates an internal emotional environment that you have to live in. So if you're creating for yourself a lot of overwhelm and anxiety and frustration and anger, you keep recreating that because you've just become accustomed to creating that and you think that's who you are. But I promise you, that's not who God made you to be. That's not how you function best. So can you take responsibility and say, no, I want to create something different. I want to stop living for my past and start living for my future and think in a different way. You can design a life that makes you feel alive and excited. You can reconnect to who you truly are, to the you that experiences love, joy, and peace. So when I was running my race, I kept asking myself, I want to run the race of love, the race of goodness, the race of gratitude, the race of beauty, the race of presence. Can I get so good at that by practicing that over, by training for that, right? I might not have trained in a crazy way for the half marathon, but how can I train to run the race I actually want to run? And the third thing is this: not just train yourself to run the race, train yourself to run your race. Like really getting back in touch with who you authentically are. Stop the pretending. Stop the people pleasing. It's so easy to tell when you're around somebody who is comfortable in their own skin. When you're around somebody who has learned to be who they authentically are, who has learned to be more of themselves. And I don't think this is very common, number 1. And I think it's something that you have to train for because naturally, your false self, your ego, will want to protect you. So it will want you to pretend to be somebody you're not. It will want you to put on these false masks. It will want you to pretend to be better than you are. Like I get this all the time. I saw somebody on Saturday and this person was like, I got the impression that this person's like, oh, she's just a normal person. Yeah, I might be a life coach. And I've been through a lot of things and I've trained myself in a lot of ways to experience life in amazing ways. But I'm also just one of the humans. And I never want people to not see me as that. I never want to put on this facade that I have all of life figured out and that I don't still struggle and that I don't have to coach myself through 13 miles of a race because I do. So, how can you be more you? When you do that, you will find so much strength and truth and confidence when you're not trying to be someone you're not. And you can get truly great at the race that really matters to you. Some of you are running a race that doesn't matter to you. I remember when I first got out of medical school trying to run the race of keeping up with the Joneses, like living in a certain place or in a certain house or having a certain membership so that people would think a certain thing. Like, y'all, I live in the tiniest town in Tennessee called Bean Station. I could care less what people think of the house I have or where I live or what I wear. I just want to live my true, authentic self. I want to utilize my authentic gifts so that I can run the race I want to run. The outdo one another by showing honor. That's a race I want to run. That race of loving people unconditionally. That's a race I want to run. That race of experiencing joy and gratitude and living in such a way that inspires other people to do the same. That's a race I want to run. And listen, there's almost no competition on that road. There literally is no competition on the road of you to your true self. No competition. So go create a life that delights you, that sets your soul on fire, that helps you be more your true self. Take responsibility for everything, even if it feels like you can't, and just see what happens. Love you so much. I'm so glad you joined today. Go run your race.